Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you joining me from, and welcome to the Spore. My name is Amos Kaburu. I'm the founder and chief steward at the Opticum, and on the Spore program, I'll be your rector dean. It's my pleasure to welcome you aboard on the 3 month journey, which is a very, very foundational stage of welcoming you to the community of the Opticum. I pray and hope that you'll have a good time, a moment that will be your company during this life changing process. Now, sometimes back in when I was just completing college in 2008, um, I recall one of the university professors spending a bit of time to speak to us. And he had this favorite quote. He used to say, I know the worries of a fourth year student. And that is one, will I get a job? And secondly, will I get a spouse? Those are the worries of a fourth year or a finalist student. Now, spend a bit of time just trying to reflect on that, particularly in years that came later. And just after I'd finished college, I spent a bit of time in the village. I wasn't very sure of what to do, just like everyone else. I was not very sure whether I needed to go back for my master's, or whether I needed to get a job, or whether I needed to go into self employment. I had requested the principal of the high school where I'd gone to do teaching practice to give me a teaching job. And he had been very categorical that they had more than enough teachers on the board, so they were not in a position to accommodate me. That in itself was a little bit disheartening. I had poured in my soul and heart during the teaching practice. As part of, I had focused my eyes on, I didn't want to leave. I loved the environment and had thought that perhaps getting an opportunity in that school would be a great way for me to start off my foundational years as a trained teacher. Unfortunately, the news were a bit devastating. But that was not the only thing that I've been doing. I have been trying to build contacts with my lecturers and friends that I had known over time. And there is this job that I had applied for, and it appeared like it was some good amount of money. By then, I had even no idea if I earned such money, what I would do with it. Don't ask me to mention how much money it was. And I remember writing to this professor who was a friend who was trying to help me get the job. And he wrote me an email that has stuck with me for so many years. And it went. I had written and said that we in the village there isn't much we can do. It's dry. It's dry. We can do anything on the farms. And his response was not very pleasant. It's not what I wanted to hear that time. But he went, I hope that the job comes through. But even so, spend a bit of time with your relatives because you do not know when you'll get another 2 weeks to spend with them. Truly enough, I've been around in my village for almost a week. But the maximum I've done is 3 hours with my mother, which also came at a huge cost. That is decades later. By that time, I didn't want to hear that. What I wanted to hear is, what can I do? So it's always been something that rings my mind when I sit to recall what that conversation and how that conversation went. A few years later, I sat down with a young woman in her early 30s and I was trying to understand how she managed to get it right. And something that she told me is part of what helped me to connect with everything. She told me, I'm grateful that I went through the mentorship program that I went through, without which I will not be who I am today. I spend a lot of time with old people or people with different age groups. People who have advanced age. I've sat down with the 99-year-olds, I've sat down with the 60-year-old, 50s. People who have made it, people who are making it, and people who had made it. And there are two things that come very clear. There's something called peace. Peace. It appears that peace is the most expensive commodity in old age. So I've been spending a bit of time trying to understand how individuals arrive at peace in old age and others literally struggle through getting peace. Whether they are those who made it early enough, what you'll meet in the program called Sunrise Achievers, vis-a-vis people who remained stable in what they had got, and people who later on realized what we call the late bloomers. There's one consistent thing, and it has got to do with how people lived their lives. This is the journey that we welcome you into. It's a journey of being still amidst lots of calls. As a young graduate, not very sure. Should I go into self-employment? Should I be employed? Should I go back to school? Those are the real tensions that a young person would be welcomed into. And for the past 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 years, because I've seen the oldest on the cohort is 28, you spend time being told one thing: leave. Leave. At 3, you are released to go to school. And from then, you've never known the meaning of staying still. You've basically been running with a school calendar next to you every single day, with a bell, with a timetable, with a curriculum demands a school uniform, an identity clothed as socialization. What probably you never start to do is to look at what is the implication of being told to leave. Nobody has ever told you that you can rest. It appears like life is a constant motion. You are deep in it, running and running and running and running. How about if we invited you into a journey of stillness, just to observe, to interpret, and perhaps to ask, will there be trends in the people we see arrive at old age with peace, or those that arrive there with regrets? That is the journey of discovery that we welcome into. This journey intersects with a study that we are conducting called the intergenerational dialogue. And so, the Spore is a 3-phase journey that includes 3 journeys. 1, facing in or looking in. Who exactly are you? With everything that has been deposited in your life, who truly are you? Away from the patterns and that which has been deposited in your life consistently by your family, by the school system, by the society, by the media, by the friends and peers, and even sometimes the older members, those who've exercised a lot of influence on your life. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who truly am I? Am I a continuation of somebody's life? Am I replaying scenes in my life? Or who exactly am I? You need to answer that question as a young person, because those are foundations upon which your life will be built. So if you don't take adequate time to answer that question, you'll always make decisions that you are not very sure. And that is what we do in phase 1. In the phase 2, we will have an opportunity to go back to the communities where you were raised. You'll have an opportunity to spend time literally in that community, to observe it from different lenses. To the old members, what did it take them to live and remain in those communities? Do they have regrets? What do they feel were their proudest moments? What kept them going? They've observed all these changes. When you sit down with an 80-year-old speaking about the times of independence, what has changed? When you sit down with the elders in that community, institutions that have outlived many of those who came and left. But even most importantly, you'll also meet people that you already know. Somebody who had it figured out at 30, at 40. But then something just happened all over a sudden. The guy who drinks but speaks very good English in the village, what happened to him? Basically, everyone has a story. And that helps you to begin reflecting on the kind of decisions that you're making. When you're done with that, we will welcome you to phase 3. We practically do it. When you're 40 and you look back, what do you want to see? Let's answer that question together. But the bigger question is, why the Spore? The Spore is the third program in our flowering series programs at the Optica. This looks at 3 important phases of a flower on a plant. The first one is the bud, followed by the bloom, and lastly is the spore. When you see a plant and out of it emerges something like a flower that would be, that is the bud. It's still forming. Nobody knows what color it will come out, how big it will be, probably how beautiful or not beautiful it will be. That is the life of a teenager. That's life of an adolescent. A lot is happening, yet nobody knows what exactly it will turn out to be. By the time the flower blossoms, is blooming, is beautiful, is attractive. It attracts the birds, it attracts the bees. Human beings want to pluck it right from the farm. What they forget, that is the most delicate part of a plant. Because a flower that is late to mature grows into something that many of us don't want to talk about. That becomes the fruit, and in it bears the seeds that continues the life of that plant. So there is a time when you meet the flower, when it is dry, the petals have fallen off. It's no longer attractive to the eye. That is the stage called the spore. At the spore moment in life is dormant, it's no longer attractive, it's uncomfortable. That is where you are. That period between college and settling into the world of work. You're not very sure whether you are still a child or whether you are a grown-up. You go back home and sometimes you're told to go and sleep in your childhood bedroom. But you are in college, you were never used to ask for permission. Now you're supposed to come back. Now you are an adult. Your father has a house in the village, but you can't go live there. You're trying to figure out your life. That's a time when you see your friends getting jobs, others settling in, others getting married. And every single day as you make applications for your jobs and they're not going through, you just don't know what next. And if you're not careful, giving up is always calling. That's the time when you bed rot. That's the time when you realize how expensive life can get to be. We are your company at that time, helping you figure out what is happening next. By telling you that you are the spore, you're basically serving the purpose. And you can imagine what happens if you to tear apart that flower at that spore moment. It's no longer a flower, neither is it a fruit, neither is it even the seed that gives life. So there is discomfort that comes with it, and that is the moment of the spore. So we invite you into this 3 months of being still. And as I sit with you, we will be discussing the practicality of doing it. You've been recommended by one of your coordinators. Some of you because you participated in the USAWA agenda assessment, or probably you've been outstanding in the life of the coordinator who nominated you. You're going to be put in a cohort with other young people from different counties with similar experiences. We are here to curate that experience. It will mostly be your work that you are doing alone. We will give you a workbook that will accompany you in the journey. But every week we'll have an opportunity to meet for 1.5 hours, all virtual. The first two of the work will literally require you to live within your own community where you grew up. But for the phase 1 and phase 3, you could do it anywhere. I welcome you. Let's talk. Let's engage with you every step of the way. This is how we realize legacy. And I wish you well in that journey. That no matter what happens, you are becoming. At 40, you look back and say, I made a decision to build deliberately. And whether you make a decision to build deliberately or not, you've still made a decision. And a compounding effect of not making that decision will be felt at that time. But it's also important to mention this, that in my experience sitting down with people, I've come across one common trend and phenomenon. The decisions that people made in their 20s are very significant in their lives. What are these decisions? And we'll look at the 6 critical decisions that every human being is supposed to make. And that is the journey of the Spore. Welcome.